Alright, so this is a system unit comprises of the CPU, the motherboard, the hard drive, and other peripheral devices. I am about to open the top of the system unit that's here. I'm about to open it now and then go inside. Alright, so in order to pull the top of the system unit case, you draw this lever here, it will fly those latches and you just lift up. There you go. So you place it down carefully. Alright, so upon opening the system unit, there are some components that we can see here. So this is a hard drive. This is a SATA hard drive. There is a CD RAM. Here is your power unit. Here is a heat sink, which covers your CPU. And down there, here you can see that you have the motherboard. So I'm going to remove these items on top, and then let's see what's on the motherboard. Alright, so what I'm going to do is first disconnect the hard drive, which is connected to the power supply unit. So that's this cable here running from the hard drive to the power supply unit. So I'm going to plug it off. So that's that wire. You also have a cable that runs to your CD drive from the power supply unit. Alright. Now you have your connection from your hard drive to your motherboard. That's this wire here. This wire connects the motherboard to the CD drive. You can disconnect it here. And it's on the motherboard now. Now for your hard drive, the wire connected to your hard drive is underneath. Alright, so in order to remove your hard drive, you have these two blue clips. What you do, you squeeze them together, you lift up your hard drive, and here's the wire that connects the hard drive to your motherboard. Now you want to be careful with how you deal with your hard drive, because you don't want to damage your hard drive. Here's a fan, cooling fan on the hard drive also. So here's the connection from the hard drive to the cooling fan to the motherboard. So you disconnect the connection here, press the clip, the swivel, and there you go. Now for the connection to the motherboard, from the motherboard, you disconnect there, and there you go. Remember? So now you have your fan, you have your hard drive. Now you place them down carefully. You don't want to damage your hard drive. And on the hard drive here, this is a SATA capacity of 80 gigabytes of data. Now here you have a part of a motherboard. You can see it's an Intel motherboard. And if it's an Intel motherboard, you know that more than likely the CPU, central processing unit, will be an Intel processing unit. So here's your CD drive, and over here you have your floppy disk drive with this connector wire, which connects to the motherboard. Here I'm going to disconnect this wire from the floppy drive. Just pull. There you go, it's disconnected. And just take it out of the way. Alright. So to remove the floppy drive, you lift this lever here. Now you swivel it up. Then just come up. Now here is a floppy disk drive. So now you have a hard drive, a CD drive, and a floppy disk drive. Now here you have a power supply unit. Now this is a power supply unit which has a fan to cool it. Here there is a fan. This has all the wire. This distributes power. This converts AC current to DC so that it distributes current to all of the devices, all of the hardware in the that connects to the motherboard. So here is the power to the motherboard. Here's the wire running, which gives power to the motherboard, and the other wire supply power to the other devices such as the hard drive, the CD-ROM drive, and the floppy disk drive. Now here you have your heat sink that cools your CPU. So this is what go over your CPU to kind of get rid of some of the heat so that the CPU doesn't burn up. And now you have a fan that helps to cool the CPU. So when the heat sink goes on, the fan blows and draw the heat. So it pulls the heat up into the heat sink and push it out. Now here you have your CPU, the central processing unit, and the fan that helps to cool it. Here is your heat sink that goes over your CPU. So it will go over it like this. And the fan helps to cool it. Now here you have your CPU. And we can see that it's an Intel Pentium dual core, and as I said before, the motherboard is an Intel motherboard, and the motherboard and the CPU must be compatible in order to work. And here you have it, an Intel CPU with an Intel motherboard. Alright, so now you have a motherboard, and on the motherboard you have your PCI slots that is used to expand, like to add other devices or other peripherals to the computer system unit. So you use this slot. So like if you wanted like to add like a HDMI, a VGA, a Bluetooth, you would insert it in this slot. Right beside it you have the CMOS battery, which is in charge of keeping up, saving like the date and the time for your motherboard. So it is a motherboard's battery. Also on this side you have your RAM chip. So just pull out the RAM chip. So here you have a RAM chip. Over here you have your RAM slots. So these three slots will use the whole RAM. So if you want to add more RAM to the motherboard or to the computer, you put it in these slots. Also there's another chip here. So this is a second RAM chip. So you have two of them. One is actually bigger than the other. And over here now you have the connectors on your motherboard for your peripheral devices. So for instance, this is for your VJ, this is for your RJ45 cable connector, this is like your your earphone or a speaker, this is your microphone. These are USB slots to add like your USB devices, and over here you have where you input your power card connector. Alright, now I am about to reconstruct this system unit, put it back together. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to input my RAM chips, and these can only be going in one way, doesn't go in two ways. Now I'm about to reassemble back all of this system unit, and then I'll turn on the computer and install a Windows 7 or another operating system. Alright, also this is your heatsink for your motherboard, which helps cool down your motherboard when it gets too hot. So this helps to cool down your motherboard. This is a heatsink, and this is a smaller heatsink for your motherboard. This is the big heatsink for your central processing unit. Alright, so here I have reassembled part of the system unit. Now I have the hard drive to reassemble, and then I'll go ahead and turn on this system to see if it works. Alright, now so here's a fully assembled system unit. I'm about to put on about the casing on it. Alright, so that's it, fully assembled.